I still remember the night the blood moon rose, a portent in the darkening sky that whispered of ancient curses and shattered destinies. I had wandered through lands where time itself seemed to wilt beneath an eternal twilight, a realm where hope clung to the last vestiges of light like dew on dying petals. My name is irrelevant now, for I have become a mere shadow among shadows, but the memories of my journey remain as vivid as the crimson stains on my soul. It began with a summons, a call from a voice that echoed through the mists of my dreams. I was a traveler, burdened with a past of regret and loss, roaming the rugged wilderness in search of meaning after the collapse of all that I once held dear. In a small village perched on the edge of the forbidden wood, an old seer, her eyes milky with the weight of countless visions, told me, "The veil between our world and that beyond grows thin. Beware the night when the blood moon rises, for it heralds the awakening of ancient powers." I dismissed her words as the ramblings of a mind touched by solitude, yet deep within me, a stirring of something long forgotten took hold, a latent longing for truth, for reckoning. The next evening, as twilight bled into the horizon, I found myself drawn toward the forbidden wood. The forest was no ordinary woodland. It was a labyrinth of twisted oaks and gnarled trees, whose branches interlocked like the fingers of lost souls. Each step I took was accompanied by a rustle of unseen creatures and the whispered cadence of an age-old lament. It was as if the forest itself breathed, its exhalations heavy with sorrow and secrets. The air grew colder, and the light dimmed until I could no longer tell where the earth ended and the sky began. Deep within the forest, I encountered ruins of an ancient castle, a relic from an era when magic ruled unchallenged, and the veil between the mortal and the mystical was as thin as a breath. The castle was crumbling, its once proud towers now little more than jagged silhouettes against the starless sky. Intrigued and compelled by an unseen force, I entered the main hall, where faded tapestries and shattered relics told the story of a bygone civilization. In the center of the hall lay a grand mirror, its surface darkened by centuries of neglect, yet it shimmered faintly with a phosphorescent glow. I approached the mirror with trepidation, and as my fingers brushed its cold surface, I was not met with my own reflection, but with visions of a distant past. I saw a grand sorcerer draped in robes of midnight blue, performing a forbidden ritual, a dance with dark entities that promised power beyond mortal comprehension. I saw the sorcerer's eyes burn with a fire that matched the blood moon's glow, and in that instant, I realized that my destiny was entwined with his. That my arrival was no accident, but a piece in a puzzle crafted by fate itself. The mirror shattered with a sudden force, scattering shards of glass that cut through the silence like splinters of broken hope. In the wake of the explosion, a spectral figure emerged, a woman of ethereal beauty and despair, her eyes deep pools of sorrow and rage. She spoke in a voice that resonated within the very marrow of my bones. "You have come to break the cycle, to undo the bonds of an ancient covenant. But be warned, traveler, every truth comes with a price. Before I could muster a reply, she dissipated into motes of light, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of urgency and dread. Compelled by a mixture of fear and a newfound determination, I pressed on, venturing further into the labyrinthine forest. As the hours bled into one another, the woods revealed hidden enclaves of unspeakable wonder and terror. I came upon a glade where luminescent fungi cast eerie glows on the surrounding trees, their bioluminescence painting grotesque shadows that danced with the whispers of forgotten chants. In the center of the glade stood an ancient stone altar, etched with runes that pulsed with a soft, rhythmic glow. Here, nature and magic intermingled in a macabre ballet, a reminder that in this realm, beauty and horror were inseparable companions. It was in this eerie glade that I encountered a peculiar figure, a wandering knight clad in battered armor that seemed to have weathered centuries. His face was hidden beneath a helm adorned with twisted motifs, and his presence exuded an aura of melancholy and honor lost to time. Without uttering a single word, he extended a hand as if inviting me to share in his silent vigil. The knight's eyes, when they met mine, conveyed 1,000 untold stories of valor and tragedy, and in that moment I sensed that he too had been touched by the curse of the ancient covenant. Together we journeyed deeper into the heart of the cursed lands. Our path led us to a village shrouded in perpetual twilight, a settlement whose inhabitants moved like phantoms, their eyes hollow and their expressions void of hope. In hushed tones, they spoke of the Ebon Covenant, a pact forged long ago between mortal kings and the dark entities that dwelled beyond the veil. The Covenant had promised eternal prosperity in exchange for the souls of those who dared to defy the natural order. Over time, the promise had withered, leaving behind a legacy of misery and despair. The villagers believed that the blood moon signified a time when the Covenant would be renewed, a ritual that demanded sacrifice and sealed their fate for another cycle of torment. Haunted by their stories, I could not shake the feeling that my own fate was inextricably linked to these ancient dealings. The knight and I sought the counsel of an enigmatic crone, a witch reputed to possess forbidden knowledge. In her dilapidated cottage, tucked away at the edge of the village, the air was thick with the scent of herbs and the coppery tang of blood. The witch, her skin as weathered as the ancient runes etched into the castle walls, regarded us with a piercing gaze. "The covenant you speak of," she rasped, "is not merely an old legend. It is the binding chain that has kept the realms of man and myth in their ordained places. To break it is to invite chaos, a world where nightmares reign supreme." Despite her ominous warnings, my resolve only deepened. The truth, however terrifying, was a truth I could no longer ignore. I began to experience visions, fragments of memory and prophecy that flashed before my eyes in moments of solitude. In these visions, I saw myself standing atop a hill of shattered dreams, the blood moon overhead, as dark silhouettes rose from the depths of the earth. I saw battles fought in realms of shadow, and I heard the clamor of voices of those who had fallen victim to the Covenant, their pleas for redemption echoing through the corridors of time. One such vision led me to the ruined Cathedral of Solace, an edifice once dedicated to the worship of benevolent gods, now defiled by the taint of dark magic. The cathedral's once vibrant stained glass windows were shattered, and its altar lay desecrated by blood and ash. As I stepped into the vast, echoing hall, the silence was overwhelming, broken only by the distant sound of chanting. In the center of the cathedral, surrounded by robed figures whose faces were obscured by hoods, stood the sorcerer from my earlier vision. His presence was commanding, his eyes aglow with an otherworldly light as he performed the ritual to renew the covenant. Time seemed to warp as I watched in both horror and awe. The sorcerer chanted in an ancient tongue, his voice resonating with the power of centuries, and the air thickened with an almost palpable energy. The robed figures, disciples of the old ways, began to move in unison, their arms raised as if in supplication to forces unseen. I felt a profound pull, an irresistible force drawing me towards the center of the ritual. It was as if my very soul was destined to be entwined with these dark rites, to play a role in the eternal dance of destruction and rebirth. Before I could comprehend the enormity of what was unfolding, the knight grasped my arm and whispered urgently, "We must not let this continue. The covenant must be broken, even if it means sacrificing what little remains of our humanity." His voice, though steady, trembled with the weight of inevitability. Together we charged towards the altar, our hearts pounding in defiance of the dark tide that sought to claim us. A fierce clash of wills erupted as we confronted the sorcerer and his followers. The cathedral became a battleground where light and shadow wrestled for dominion over fate. Swords clashed, and the air shimmered with bursts of magical energy. I felt an inner strength awaken within me, a primal, untamed power that surged forth. Damage was irreversible. The covenant had been broken, and with it, the delicate balance between our world and the realm of dark magic was irrevocably altered. In the days that followed, I wandered the scarred lands, haunted by the echoes of that fateful night. The forest, the village, and even the ruins of the cathedral bore the marks of our defiance, a constant reminder that the ancient covenant, though shattered, still left behind a legacy of torment. The knight who had fought valiantly by my side was nowhere to be found. Some say he vanished into the mists, a martyr whose sacrifice was etched into the fabric of the land. Others believe he now wanders as a specter, forever bound to the cursed realm he had tried so desperately to save. I, too, was changed. The battle had unlocked a latent power within me, a dark, potent force that was both a blessing and a curse. In moments of quiet, I could feel its presence pulsing beneath my skin, a reminder of the price I had paid for challenging the ancient order. I found myself standing at the crossroads of fate, torn between the desire to wield this power for good and the ever-present threat that it would consume me entirely. Night after night, I battled with my inner demons as much as I did with the outward manifestations of the darkness that now seeped into every corner of the land. I became a wanderer, a reluctant guardian of a realm teetering on the brink of chaos. In my solitude, I realized that breaking the covenant was not the end of our troubles. It was only the beginning of a long, arduous journey to restore balance to a world forever scarred by the sins of its past. One bitterly cold evening, under a sky devoid of stars, I stumbled upon an ancient library hidden deep beneath the roots of an enormous twisted tree. The library was a sanctuary of forgotten lore, its shelves lined with dusty tomes and manuscripts written in languages long lost to time. As I pored over these relics, I uncovered cryptic prophecies that hinted at a way to mend the rift between our realm and the dark beyond. It spoke of a convergence, a rare alignment of celestial forces that would allow one brave soul to harness the very essence of the shattered veil and sew together the frayed threads of existence. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I set forth on a quest that took me to the farthest reaches of the cursed lands. I journeyed through barren moorlands where the wind sang mournful dirges, crossed treacherous rivers of molten glass, and climbed jagged peaks that pierced the heavens. Each step was a battle against not only the physical dangers of the land, but also the insidious influence of the dark magic that sought to claim me as its own. In my travels, I encountered beings of unimaginable wonder and terror, a council of ancient drakes whose scales shimmered with the luster of forgotten stars, and ethereal spirits that guarded the threshold between life and death. I learned that the rift between our world and the abyss was not merely a consequence of broken covenants, but the result of an eternal struggle, a cosmic dance between creation and destruction, hope and despair. Every night as I camped beneath the boughs of twisted trees, I could feel the pulse of the dark magic intensifying. It was as though the land itself was alive with sorrow and defiance, urging me onward despite the overwhelming odds. And with each step I felt the weight of destiny pressing upon me, a burden that was both noble and crushing. The convergence, when it finally came, was as awe-inspiring as it was terrifying. Under a sky lit by the eerie glow of the blood moon, the ancient forces aligned in a display of raw, untamed power. In the heart of a ruined amphitheater carved into the side of a colossal cliff, I stood before the shattered remnants of the veil. The air vibrated with anticipation, and for a brief, harrowing moment, the boundaries between our realm and the abyss blurred into insignificance. Drawing upon every ounce of strength, resolve, and the dark power that now resided within me, I channeled the energies of the convergence. My voice, trembling yet determined, recited the incantations etched in the forgotten texts. As the words left my lips, the air around me began to shimmer, and the very fabric of reality seemed to warp and bend. Light and shadow entwined in a cosmic dance, spiraling around me in a vortex of power that threatened to tear the world asunder. In that climactic moment, I felt the presence of every lost soul, every shattered dream, and every spark of hope that had ever dared to defy the darkness. The ancient forces, both benevolent and malevolent, converged upon me, each vying for a sliver of the power I had summoned. The struggle was immense, a battle waged not with swords or sorcery alone, but with the raw, unyielding force of will and destiny. And then, as abruptly as it had begun, the tumult subsided. The vortex of energy collapsed inward, sealing the rift between the realms and scattering the dark magic like embers in the wind. I stood there, alone and trembling, bathed in the afterglow of a power that defied mortal comprehension. I had succeeded in mending the torn fabric of existence, but at a cost I could scarcely fathom. The convergence left me forever altered, a living testament to the delicate balance between light and darkness. I had become both guardian and wanderer, a solitary figure tasked with ensuring that the lessons of the past were not forgotten. The memories of the ancient covenant, the battles fought in cursed cathedrals, and the whispers of forgotten lore lingered within me, a constant reminder that the world was a tapestry woven with both beauty and sorrow. As I continue my journey through these scarred lands, I carry with me the hope that even in the depths of despair, there lies the potential for renewal. The darkness, though ever present, is not invincible, and within its depths there exists the promise of rebirth. My story is but one thread in the vast, intricate tapestry of fate, a reminder that even when the veil is shattered, the light can still be kindled in the most unlikely of places. So, if you ever find yourself wandering through a land where the night is endless, and the echoes of ancient curses resonate in every whisper of the wind, remember this: every shadow conceals a spark of light, every tear of sorrow nourishes the seeds of hope, and every shattered covenant holds the promise of redemption. The path may be fraught with peril, and the journey may be long, but in the end it is the struggle itself that shapes us, turning our fears into fortitude, our despair into determination, and our shattered dreams into the foundations of a new dawn. And thus, beneath the watchful gaze of a sky forever marked by the blood moon, I press onward, an unyielding wanderer in a dark and fantastical realm, forever bound to the legacy of the shattered veil, yet ever hopeful that one day the darkness will give way to light,